It is 6:30. We will call the September 4th Planning Commission meeting to order. First item of business, Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Next item is role of the Planning Commission. It is on the agenda for those interested to read it. Approval of agenda, item 4.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
Any changes from staff? We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Next item is consent agenda. The only thing on the consent agenda is Planning Commission minutes from August 7th. Any additions, corrections, notes to add?
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion from Keith and a second from Darren. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion passes 5-0. Open forum. Open forum is limited to 3 minutes for non-agenda items. Anyone here for open forum?
Anyone online?
If anybody is online for open forum, please feel free to raise your hand through Zoom and we will unmute you to let you speak.
All right, seeing none, we will move on. Council update. No council updates tonight. All right.
Sorry.
There's been 2 meetings since our last meeting. Read those meeting minutes. Next item is 8A, public hearing for preliminary plat of Dayton Field 5th edition.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the Planning Commission. Tonight you're asked to consider providing a recommendation to the City Council on a preliminary plat, site plan review for a contractor's operation, and conditional use permit for accessory outdoor storage. Now, this was a project that you'd recently seen in June of this year through the concept meeting that we had, where you were able to provide feedback. You, along with the City Council, were able to provide feedback to the applicants regarding their concept design, and as such had to the applicants have come back and incorporated some of those items within the new plans here. So now they're here asking for formal approval from the city to proceed with their development plans. The property is located on the corner of West French Lake Road and 121st Avenue. Overall site is about 8.43 acres. You remove the wetlands out of that, the net area is closer to 5 acres in the site. Currently guided industrial and zoned I-1 light industrial, which contractors' operations are a permitted use within those zoning districts, as well as the accessory outdoor storage is conditionally approved individually on a case-by-case basis. This property is currently in the Musa staging area current. That is in the 2040 comp plan and has access to utilities already. The site was previously approved for a similar use, just a background, in 2023, was a QT commercial development that never proceeded with construction. So overall, just a general layout of the site. 26,000 square foot building split between 8,000 square feet of office space and 18,000 square feet of warehouse and shop area, both of which are permitted in the I-1. Single access proposed aligned with the Invent building directly to the north of the property, or the Capital Partners building as some people refer to it as. Employee and customer parking is oriented in the front of the building towards the northwest corner of the property, as well as just the north between the building and the front property line. Additionally, there's roughly 36,500 square feet of outdoor storage proposed, 10,000 give or take, of which is proposed to be asphalt surfacing, is actually an increase of roughly 500 to 700 square feet of asphalt more shown than in the concept review, and the remaining area is proposed Class 2 aggregate, all of which is proposed to be fenced in and fully screened from view off the property. I will note that there was a discussion that came out of this concept review regarding the surfacing materials for outdoor storage in industrial districts, where the city council had requested that they be offered the opportunity to allow it on a case-by-case basis to not be asphalt or concrete. That was previously approved prior to this occurring. I believe that was approved by the city council in July, so. Here was the site plan provided. You can see here that I've got a better slide that shows the outline of the fence line, but you can see here that there is open public parking spaces here from the access, which allows for the public parking area and the building to be fully viewable from the street. And as well, there is a 8-foot chain link fence proposed to be completely surrounding the property up to this building corner here. And provide a little bit more context on that as we get into this. Just to touch base on the architecture, nothing changed from the original submittal of the architecture or the building elevations. Even through the concept review, we found that the proposed materials were consistent with the I-1 district standards, providing a combination of concrete and metal finishing, including accent materials such as different colors that are provided as they were shown in the packet there, and then a combination of those vertical and horizontal panels. And here was the colored elevation that was provided by the applicant. Just for perspective, here's a view of the site. You can see this is the in-vent location, proposed access there, where it already is currently being utilized, whether it be for farm purposes or whatever it may be. This was detailed out in the packet as well, but we'll go through the building and parking setbacks as well as some other site design requirements that are to be reviewed against the standards in the I-1 district zoning ordinance section. All of these front, side, and rear yard setbacks are met, and some of them with significant distance from adjacent property lines. And here are the parking setbacks. The side interior was noted just as the 20 feet, given the property adjacent to this is a vacant lot that is guided for a manufactured home park, so we did utilize that just for reference, that the ones in parentheses there that you see are, if it is adjacent to residential, that is what the parking setback is. So even if that property, whether it becomes a manufactured home park in the future or not, this setback is met in this regard. Maximum impervious surface is about half of what is allowed by the zoning ordinance. The maximum building footprint is only 8.24%. Again, as I noted, that's a gross measurement of the total site or the total size of the property. And again, that percentage gets greater as you take out those net areas of steep slopes or wetland areas that are not buildable. Previously in the concept meeting, there wasn't any information related to the proposed height of the building. The elevation drawings that were provided did clarify that the building is 28 feet 8 inches, and I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the clear view height within the building itself is 24 feet. And then the outdoor storage coverage is only about half of what would be allowed on an industrial property of this size, consistent with that standard in the code. And just to touch base, the parking layout stayed the same. The applicant is proposing 77 total parking spaces on the site. Office space does require 1 space per 200 square feet of floor area, and which would amount to 40. And then the shop area is 1 space per 2,000 square feet, requiring roughly 9 spaces. So significantly more parking than necessary on this site. The landscaping, the number of trees are compliant with the requirements of the zoning ordinance. Staff had reviewed the types of species of those and found that there were, this will be noted in the conditions of approval as we get into this as well, but there were ash trees and elm trees that were proposed on the property. Under certain circumstances through the zoning ordinance, it does allow for specific types of elm trees to be planted, only if they meet a certain threshold of, I guess, I don't know what you would call it, immunity from Dutch elm's disease, and through our review, the proposed elm trees that were provided did not meet that threshold. The applicant doesn't have to provide a different type of species for this, as the number is the thing that the zoning ordinance is more concerned with. So if those numbers of ash trees and elm trees were revised to reflect the other trees proposed on the site, staff would find that satisfactory with the zoning ordinance. So that would be a condition of approval. And then the wetland buffer, previously through the measurement in the concept plan, it was found that the wetland buffer did not at that time meet the 25-foot average. The applicant did revise that, and it showed and reflected that the proposed wetland buffer on the property does meet that 25-foot average now. The applicant will be working through development with Public Works to place conservation easement or wetland buffer signs on those areas delineating where the buffer begins, as the intent of the buffer is to maintain its natural look, just like it would be as the wetland. Now, the one thing that I wanted to note that wasn't really addressed in the staff report was the proposed fence. The applicant is proposing an 8-foot fence, chain link fence surrounding the outdoor storage area, and actually sectioning off, and I'll move to this here to show you what I'm seeing here from the proposed plan. So the fence is proposed to be 8 feet chain linked with opaque slats. It wouldn't be transparent throughout the front end of the property. So essentially the way that the code reads, and there's a little bit of a contradiction within the code versus standard property fencing versus outdoor storage screening being served as that fence. So this is the reason that we wanted to bring it to your attention, just because there was a little bit of a contradictory when what is the fence's purpose overall. So this year, generally, if you're looking at it from the landscaping and screening section of the code of just standard fence allowances, essentially right here would be the cutoff of where the opaque fence would be allowed to be. The applicants has stated that they do prefer, and they do ask that consideration be put into having this area still all the way up to the front property line. Not on the front property line, as it would be, I think it encroaches about 2 feet within that drainage utility easement that separates the parking area to the front property line. They are requesting that this area maintain its opaque nature with the, I guess, the filled-in slats of the chain link fence. So I think that would be really through staff's review, that's kind of the main point of discussion in terms of site design today. And we'd be happy to get your feedback, and the applicants are here to provide their context on why they feel that it is necessary. From a staff standpoint, given the contradictory in the code in terms of fence purpose on a property, staff can see that there could be an opportunity for this to be a non-transparent fence up on the front side, provided that visibility is still allowed without the fence line going up through this parking area for the public parking area and the overall design of the building. But again, that is not something the city staff can do administratively, and would like some feedback from the Planning Commission. So the role of the Planning Commission tonight is to hold a public hearing for the proposal. Notice was sent to surrounding properties within a quarter mile of this area, as well as published in the Champlin-Dayton Press. Please provide a recommendation to the City Council on the requested development proposal. All in all, through the review and the staff report therein, staff does recommend approval with the following conditions, and any conditions that the Planning Commission or City Council feel necessary to include as well. The applicant shall submit a petition for vacation of easements on the property prior to or concurrently with the submittal of a final plat application. Essentially, when this was platted as an outlot in Dayton Field 4th Edition, there was a drainage and utility easement there that was established around the wetland area on the property, even though it was still an outlot. So it would really be just more of a formality to vacate that easement, let the new plat reestablish the easements on the property. Site signage shall be in accordance with the zoning ordinance section that is relevant. The outdoor storage is lighting is limited to 20 feet in height to be consistent with the code standard, and the remaining site area lighting is to be 30 feet in height and not to exceed that. All lighting is required to be downcasted with a cutoff of 90 degrees or less, Within the packet as well, you can see that the applicants did provide a photometric that provided consistency with the zoning ordinance standard. Let's see here. The outdoor storage shall be limited to the area delineated on the site plan. That would be sheet number C 2.1 attached to the report. The gravel surface area is limited to 27,000 square feet of overall outdoor storage area, and it is required to be surfaced with Class 2 aggregate to maintain dust control. Rooftop and ground-mounted mechanical equipment shall be fully screened from view, consistent with the zoning ordinance requirements of new construction in industrial districts, and then the same condition that I had referenced regarding the landscaping with the trees. The proposed elm trees and ash trees should be replaced with different species pursuant to staff's approval upon review of a revised landscape plan. As I said before, staff recommends approval for this pending the conversation that is to be had about the fence, and I'd be happy to stand for any questions.
Any questions for staff?
I have a couple. The fencing, the opaque, do we have 8-foot fencing like that anyplace else in the city?
Yeah, I believe that there is a 8-foot opaque fence adjacent to the truck area parking with MTL.
Yeah, Invent that's across the street from the site will have 8-foot fence. Yeah, MTL.
Not that those properties have opaque fencing in the front yard.
Right.
That I do not believe that we have, and if we did, it was likely a legally non-conforming fence that was installed prior to the zoning ordinance being in place for that standard.
MTL has an opaque fence against the mobile home park, but it's from the street, you can't really see it.
The other question I have deals with the adjacent property that's zoned at some form of residential, I forget what you said.
Yeah, the manufactured home park.
Manufactured home park. Does what we do here affect the ability of whoever owns that in the future to use that in accordance with our current zoning?
No, it does not, and I will also just note too that this discussion was brought up during the concept meeting regarding outdoor storage being adjacent to residentially guided properties. Through our conversation with the city council and actually our conversation with the property owner, we actually had another part of that ownership group reach out to us and let us know that they are actively open to sale, and they are more focused on trying to sell that property for an industrial use. There is no intention for that property to pursue a manufactured home park expansion in that area. Given the information with that was provided to the city council felt comfortable moving forward with outdoor storage in this area. And then as well too, there is a very significant wetland that crosses the property line in that area that would provide significant buffering on top of what is already being proposed. But the short answer is no, it would not inhibit any ability to develop that property adjacent.
Hayden, if I can you just explain a little bit more, maybe clarify the issue with the fence as far as in the front yard and in the backyard, and what the concern of staff is regarding the opaque fence in the front yard?
Yeah, I would say that it's not necessarily a concern, but more so just the contradiction that I wanted to bring up is that there's a section of the fence code that says that in commercial and industrial districts, a fence can be 8 feet tall and it can be chain link, but it has to be transparent. It has to be clear slats, open, so as to be viewable from the street. The contradiction comes in when you look at the screening requirements for the outdoor storage section of the property and of the ordinance that says that with fencing it needs to be completely screened from view of adjacent properties and right-of-way. Now, additionally, whether you consider this area outdoor storage or not, this is slated as an additional component of the outdoor storage area, whether those are going to be commercial vehicles that are going to be parked there overnight and things like that. The applicants have stated that not only is this for screening of that equipment, but also for security purposes as well. With that contradiction, staff didn't feel comfortable making an administrative decision saying, yes, this is okay. I just wanted to bring it to your attention so you understood the kind of that thing that I found when we were in review of this.
Yeah.
And I'll also note too, oh, go ahead.
No, I was
Sorry.
going to say, I would assume that Dayton does not have restrictions as far as where that outdoor storage can be located in relation to the building itself.
That is correct,
Okay,
yes.
generally, cities like them in the side or rear yard only, but Dayton says wherever you delineate it on your site plan, we'll review it as such. In this case, the applicant is stating that potentially some of that outdoor storage would be located in the front of the building, which would require the opaque fence around that area for security and for other reasons.
Correct, yes. And
Okay.
I will also say that, you know, with the fencing and the outdoor storage being in front, they have informed that, you know, the large equipment that they need to utilize for the aggregate area is going to be up there. So our anticipation, I wouldn't say that it would be an expectation at this point or anything that we would want to include into the conditions of approval of what is allowed to be stored up there, especially if it is okay to be a fully screened fence on the front yard, or, excuse me, in the front yard. But our anticipation would be that it would be likely those smaller commercial vehicles.
Has there been any consideration or conversations maybe at a staff level that would limit outdoor storage to behind the building or behind the front line of a building? I mean, to me, it makes sense where if we as a city don't want to see this application where there's an opaque fence in front of a building because it's surrounding or screening outdoor storage, because we want to see the front of the building. That would help alleviate that. It would also severely limit where the outdoor storage can be on properties, but that's part of that scenario too, or part of that calculation, I suppose.
Certainly, I think in this case especially, it probably brought it to our attention more so than just doing a review of the code or anything like that. And that could certainly be something that the Planning Commission could provide a recommendation to additionally in the future to potentially change that ordinance. But I would say that it is more rare than not to have
Well, of
to
course,
not
yeah.
have a delineated yards to have outdoor storage.
Right. I mean, this is a brand-new property, right? It's not a redevelopment, this is a brand-new development, and this is, you know, when you want other future brand-new developments to happen in the way that Dayton wants to see them happen, that's when you take a look and see if it would make sense for that type of amendment. You know, in this case, I think that if the developer's saying we're going to use it for outdoor storage, and there's materials and trucks and so on and so forth that they want to have screened and hard to see or get at, I think that it makes sense that the opaque fence would be a good application in that area. However, I could see the other side of it too, is if you want to see that front of the building, it's kind of hard to see through, at some point, 2 panes of 8-foot opaque fencing to see the front of the building.
So where does the opaque part come from? Is that a request from the city's side, or is that the applicant that wants to do that?
No, it's a requirement for outdoor storage screening in the zoning ordinance where a transparent chain link fence without any filled slats on the fencing is not going to provide screening.
Correct.
So that's where that would come in. But again, chain link is an allowable material for fencing within that, and in order to be able to create it as a screening method, that's where the filling of the slats would come in.
Does staff have any concern with the visual appearance of a chain link fence with slats to achieve the opacity? What I'm getting at here is that, you know, generally that's the way that larger industrial properties like to do it because it's really cost effective to do it that way. You know, those slats get dried up in the winter, in the summer with the summer heat, and if they get run into or anything, inevitably they're going to break or snap, and sometimes they will anyway with strong winds or whatever it is. So there's maintenance issues there too. Considering if there is an option where they achieve the opacity in the front of that yard without the slat option, just something thrown out there for the rest of the commission.
Are you suggesting like plantings?
No, not planting. I mean, there's other ways to achieve a fence without the, an opaque fence without the slats in there. Obviously, I'm not going to be spending the money for the developer, but there's obviously it's going to be more expensive than just the slats and a fence. But if we're okay with that too, it's just another option if it's the give and take, right? So conditional use permit requires, conditions of approval, and that could be one that the city would want to see happen if they're concerned with the visual appearance of that type of fence in the front yard.
To provide one other example, so we have the Heinen storage off of South Diamond Lake Road in Pineview that has metal siding. So I don't know if that's a better example or worse example, but it's an alternative.
Zanzibar? That way?
Yes, Zanzibar and South Diamond
Yeah.
Lake.
To your point, Commissioner Sargent, I would say that you're correct. I was going to bring that up as well as part of the conditions of approval for the outdoor storage. If the goal is to utilize that front fence line as screening for the outdoor storage, if there is a material of some sort, whether that be vinyl or wood, that would, I guess, soften that look as you're driving down the street, the Planning Commission is certainly welcome to add that condition as they feel necessary.
Anything else for staff?
I got one general question about CUPs for outdoor storage. Is it standard that we just issue a CUP for outdoor storage, or do we kind of talk about what they can store there a little bit? Because I'm not seeing that in the packet. And I just think some of the concerns that just in the long term is, the applicant obviously knows what they want to store there, so that's kind of like incorporating some of that into the CUP. So, usually when outdoor storage gets a bad rap, it's because it's 30 years later, it's on its second or third user maybe, and everything's just completely different than what got approved. So part of me says that the CUP should be not like overly specific, but specific to their needs at least. It's so that, hey, we kind of know, like, meaning what's being stored where. The heavy machinery and stuff like that, obviously they're going to store it on that one end of the property, but the CUP should probably define that a little bit, because if we just have a blanket CUP, someday the outdoor storage could be everywhere in that area, and that's not what we probably fully intended. So I think that should be given some thought when we write the CUP.
Just to piggyback on that, I've seen that before too, where cities will have setback requirements for the outdoor storage in that area. They'll have height requirements, so you can't store anything above the height of the fence type of thing. Very hard to do with if you're storing machinery, and I think it would be
give and take. Could apply for materials though.
Materials for sure, so you can't stack up.
Stuff like that, and then when the applicant gets up here, that'd be good to hear what they think too.
Also, types of materials being stored, so it's not chemicals or any kind of hazardous material being stored. I mean, you don't know what byproducts might be with what they're being stored, or what they're any company, not just the applicant here today. The other consideration is where that outdoor storage is going to be located in relation to the needs of the fire department. Let's say they need to get into the back of the building. Are they going to have a clear path to get back there? Where is that path going to be? Should it be unencumbered at all times so emergency vehicles could get back there and fight a fire if they have to?
Certainly. Yeah, I've seen things like that too, without getting overly specific, but they did provide a list of materials that could be referenced in the conditional use permit resolution that we can certainly add in there, just noting this is what you're proposing to use. And we can reference that plan sheet that will be a part of that resolution. And thinking about...
Yeah, the prior application on this site, we did get a little specific like that.
Yeah, absolutely. And, I think that if it comes down to having a condition of approval that is related to things that can be screened, or things that can be fully screened from the fence, shall be, such as not piling on materials on top of another, towering over. Obviously, there are certain vehicles and equipment that you won't be able to do that with, and that just comes with the kind of the practical look at what the zoning ordinance's intent is overall. But those can certainly be things that can be added to that.
That's all I got.
No questions for me.
One other one for me, dealing with the runoff water from the, can you pull that slide back up that shows the overhead view looking to the south, I guess?
Sure.
Now, the plan is to build a holding pond down in the corner where the two roads join together, correct? In addition to the water that's standing there today, where is the runoff from the parking lot going to go? Is it going into the new holding pond?
Correct.
So we're not directing any water into the current pond that's there?
That is my understanding from conversations with the engineering department, but the engineer that put the plan together can certainly clarify that as well.
Right, my concern there is not that I care where water goes into which pond, but I know what that original holding pond was built for, and I know why it's there. It's a sewage lagoon that was built by the trailer court back in the, probably 64, 65.
Yeah,
And the sewage from, or the untreated sewage from the trailer court ran through that waterway that runs into that pond, and that's why that dam is there to start with, was to create that sewage lagoon, because the state got off there because they were running that water right into French Lake.
sure.
And they made them put the sewage lagoon there. So, I mean, all the water and all the sediment for 20-plus years of 300-plus homes in that mobile home court all ran into that untreated.
Yeah, and I guess my measurements were off when I had seen a map that showed an idea of where those ponds were, but actually, what I had seen in terms of those sewage ponds was actually north of 121st Avenue.
Right,
But-
those were the newest two that they built.
Sure. Okay, that was probably a plan that I was looking at.
Right. Those are underneath Greco or whatever the building is that's next to
Well,
them there.
now it's a stormwater pond.
Well, part of the new ones are under the parking lot there under the adjacent structure. There were two large oxidation ponds or sediment ponds where they pumped the water out into there before it was allowed to be discharged, if any.
All right, any other questions, comments for staff at this time? I am gonna open the public hearing at 7:02. If the applicant would like to come forward.
Good evening, members of the commission. Thank you again for entertaining our proposal. As you recall, obviously, we're here back in June. So we've talked about many of these items. Dayton, if you could put up the fence again just
Sure.
for a moment.
And Tim, if you could just introduce yours.
Oh, I'm sorry. Tim McShane, McShane Development. I
And
wrote-
if you could also move the microphone over closer to you.
Sorry, I think I haven't done this before. Tim McShane, McShane Development. You want my address?
Sure.
6975 Foxglove Circle, Excelsior, Minnesota. And I'll have Dave introduce himself here.
David Brandishaw. I'm with Telcom Construction. Live at 13600 96th Street Northeast, Otsego.
So I was just going to address the fence for just a moment. As you can see there, you can see the building with the fence. It doesn't go all the way around the front. So you're going to be able to see that building. And anybody driving down that road, either direction, is going to see the building. They won't be able to see it if they're stopped at a certain point there on that road, but they're going to be able to see the building. I guess I would just like to point that out. In terms of the opaque desire on the fence, that's largely for security as well as screening, but this is going to be known as a construction company. They have equipment there, and I can let Dave maybe speak more to this, what's going to be there, but you know, there is theft and things that happen on these sites. People know this stuff is there, and so when they can see in, it just encourages more of that activity. So that's probably the biggest concern, and Dave, I'll let you speak to not only that, but the other outdoor storage things that they were talking about.
All right, thank you. Yeah, we have a lot of 350s and 250 trucks, which are short, that won't be seen in half tons. But we do have bucket trucks, both 550s, which will have the bucket on top, which is higher than 8 feet, but not much. And then we'll have bigger line trucks they are, and they're probably 11 feet high with the bucket, so that'll be above. We don't have a lot of them, but a few of them. Our semis are typically low boys that you might see the cab a little bit in the stacks. And then we have what we call our board trucks, are like cube trucks. I'll say like a Schwann's truck, a cube like that. And we'll have them parked there. We'll have, like, you'll see the orange duct reels that you probably see around. Those are 7 feet high. And typically when we're stacking our hand holes, they fit inside each other. We stack them about 5 feet high. We don't get them too high. It's a work comp deal if they're too high. And the rest of the items are typically under 8 feet for sure. And then our poles are laid flat on the ground, and they'll definitely won't be seen.
So just one other clarification. The larger items that he referred to will be in the back.
Yes.
The, that area up front will be for more of the 250s, the 350s, regular trucks. But we just don't want that seen from the road to encourage, again, that activity.
We've had several catalytic converters stolen. And on a dump truck, they're about $15,000 to replace. It's been a while. I'm gonna knock on wood, but that's one of the big things where it was hot a few years ago.
If we were to consider a condition as part of the outdoor storage on like vehicles, is what you're saying is that for the most part, everything in the asphalt area to call it the west of the building, front of the building, that's all vehicle storage for the most part, correct?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And so a condition like that wouldn't hurt your guys' business if we put that on there and just said, hey, it's outdoor storage, but it's for fleet vehicles and stuff like that.
Yeah, and we might stage a duct reel or something, but it wouldn't be there. And then it was a good point on the fire department. Items are stacked in rows, so we can have access with forklifts to back in and out, so there's definitely room with that.
Have you conversed with the fire department as far as, I mean, I'm sure there's gonna be a gate, right, that's gonna be closing all this off? Is there access for the fire department through that gate at any time? Is there a lockbox or security codes or anything like that for them?
I'm assuming there would be at our
Okay.
other locations there are.
Okay.
If I could provide some clarification, just when the applicants end up applying for a fence permit, when that gets installed or prior to that getting installed, generally in a situation like this, I contact the fire chief to let him know about the situation of a fence completely enclosing a portion of a property, and then him providing some suggestions on whether it's a breakaway gate or something like that offers the ability that when nobody is there and in the event of an emergency or something, they still are able to access that. Now, whether that be a fire lockbox or a breakaway gate, that can be worked out through the permitting process of the fence.
So just with don't mean to hop back and forth between the fence and outdoor storage, but we might be doing that a little bit. So I'm just trying to make sure what conditions that I might propose for the outdoor storage is. So we got fleet vehicles up there. You're going to have some bigger vehicles and materials mainly in the backyard. And if I recall correctly, it was the tracked vehicles why you want the class 2.
Correct.
Okay. And so I'm not as concerned about the height in the back of the building. And you know what, for what you're talking about, I'm not concerned about the vehicle height in the front either. But if we were to say that you had materials in the back of the building, are we hurting how you're gonna run your business if we say not to exceed the fence height? Or is that getting too specific? I mean, obviously, unless there's a complaint, no one's gonna care. And if there's a complaint, it's because there's a problem, so.
Well, I think one of the things Dave mentioned is, the height of something might be higher than 8 feet. The ability to see it is going to be very difficult.
That's why I'm
from
not
the
as
road.
concerned back there. That's why I was just curious is if there's a height, because, if we're gonna put a condition on it, we kinda need to call it a height, so I don't know if it should be like 8 feet, 12 feet. But, it has to have a height, otherwise it's nothing to measure it by, I guess, if it's something that becomes a problem.
And I just want to clarify, Commissioner Brown, that you're referring to the material related, not necessarily bucket trucks.
Correct, I'm
Okay.
referring to materials. I think when we write the
Yeah.
CUP for outdoor storage, we should be specific about
Yep.
vehicles versus materials.
I mean, what's the use of screening it then if you're not going to limit it to, that it can't be over the height of that screening, right? That's my take on it. I mean, I know if you have one piece of equipment that happens to be 8 feet, 6 inches tall, that's not as concerning to me as you have, three 5-foot pieces that are stacked on top of each other, and now it's over the height of that fence. So I'd be a little bit more, I mean, again, this is, a newly developed property, and the property in the area is also going to be developed sometime. The conditional use permits do run with the land, so even if you guys were to sell, that conditional use permit for outdoor storage still stays on that property. So subsequent owners from you can use it the same way that is going to be outlined in the conditions of approval. So I would err on the side of being a little bit more conservative as far as how we want to see that outdoor storage, just for the ability for us to go back to this resolution if we ever needed to say, hey, look, you guys are way overstepping your bounds. The conditions say you can't be over the height of the fence and you're twice that high, whatever it might be, right? So I think that's always a good thing to have in your back pocket if you need it.
And Jeff, I mean, every site's a little unique, and just to give you a little context, when this site came here before, we approved over the height of the fence because they were stacking insulation. And so I do think, I mean, I agree with what you're saying, but I want to be specific of this site too, because I also agree with the applicant's saying is that you're looking up at it, but that's why I still would rather call it a height. And so if you think there's a height, I mean, I'm putting a little pressure on you on the spot, but I just, we can't just say the fence, we can't just say so it's not visible. It's easier to call it a height. So in particular, 40 years from now, if there's an issue, we have something to enforce.
Can I interject?
Please.
Joe Raddick, Contour Development, or Contour Civil Design in this case. I did work with Mark putting together the outside storage and the fencing plan. And I think what you guys are saying makes sense, but I do think maybe we could delineate like front line of the building and back, we're 12 feet front and forward, we're below the fence. That way, there's some flexibility if they do get some materials that are a little higher, they can stick them in the back. But if it's up front, they keep it below, unless it's fleet vehicles.
Yeah, exactly. Unless it's, so 8 below the fence in the front, up to 12 feet in the back, you think would be adequate?
I think that would be adequate for what
Okay.
you're trying to do, yeah.
I mean, I'm okay with that. Obviously, we'll have some more discussion with it, but that's one thing I wanted to get clarified with what you guys are comfortable with.
Thanks.
Thanks, Joe.
Well, when you came in June, we were trying to encourage you to move that fence line back to the corner of the building. There was a little bit of heartburn with it just poking out a little bit. Now it's all the way to the street. I understand the functional and safety concerns there, but even though it's an industrial area, a lot of heartburn having a fence right on the property line like that on the street. It really changes the way that looks. It's a nice vista down that road. We got a development just to the north that's, it's an industrial building, but there's nice landscape. It's a nice yard on the side of it. You're going to have a long fence here. It's 8 feet tall. It will obscure the view of your building until you get up close to it. I mean, would you consider open slat, black vinyl fencing or something that becomes a little less visible? Or is that just too much of a security threat? I mean, just trying to think.
And Paul, just to clarify for the applicant, you're talking in front of the building,
Yeah, and I mean.
on the 121st side.
Yes, and I would even challenge the concept that this front parking lot is storage and not parking lot. The back half is all storage. You're fencing a parking lot in the front because you happen to be parking vehicles overnight, but it's a parking lot, in my opinion, which wouldn't classify the ability to put a fence in front of it.
Well, there's also that outdoor storage area on the west side there. I mean, that's predominantly probably why they.
Correct, and that's what you had fenced previously. In June, you had the area just to the left of the main drive coming in fenced, but the front parking lot was all still open.
I don't think so.
Well, I'm going to have Joe address that. He's
I don't
drawing,
want to misspeak either, but I recall the fence being pretty similar to what we showed here. But, again.
Red lines right there.
Oh, yeah, see, there you
Yeah,
go.
yeah, I keep all my stuff, I look back.
well, we've probably redrawn this several times.
But I know what
Yeah,
Mark wanted to
it's
do
been a
is
while.
they do have crews traveling throughout the state that are gone for, 5,
Sure.
10 days at a time and with their vehicles parked there overnight. In these industrial areas, when there's not a lot of residents around, they're ripe for theft.
Yeah.
And that's why they want it, so, it's unfortunate, but that's the purpose. And, of course, to screen the outside storage.
Yeah. I understand the function of it.
There's no room in the back of the building for those vehicles for a
No,
longer
that's where
term?
they're storing all their materials.
And other equipment.
Right.
And I guess just from logistically thinking about it from an operation standpoint, you have a crew going out, that crew's vehicles need to stay in one spot. They may have 4 other crews working out of the back of the building during that time, so.
And maybe there's an opportunity to pull that corner in to highlight some more landscaping. Because we had that kind of a cute corner there that
Yeah.
we just kind of cornered it off just to kind of close it in, but we could run that fence north, put a nice, some evergreens and try and soften that fence up. And even with landscaping on the outside of the fence, there's a sewer line there, but we could do some shrubbery to break up that fence so you're not just seeing a slatted fence. And I think the landscape plan does have some things like that where we could look at it.
Yeah, we can look across the street and see what that looks like. Bleasy Farms development has a continuous fence and some landscaping, and all you see is fence. In my opinion.
This is a shorter distance though.
Well, for sure it's.
So it's not,
And
it's
and
not
we're in
as
the
sure.
industrial part.
But I'm
I
just
don't-
saying that
Yeah.
a fence is a fence.
Yeah,
Um,
but there's a short road here and there's 3 industrial properties. To me, like, when I think about it, this isn't a highly trafficked road. Who are we worried about? The other industrial users in the property? So for me, I understand your point, but I'm not, to me, it's not like overly, I guess, out of place.
I don't know if this matters a whole lot. I understand where Mr. Crossan's coming from, because it would be visually appealing better if there wasn't a fence there, but I guess I understand the function of it, and I'm not super concerned, but what color are the slats gonna be? Because, I've seen bright white, I've seen tan, I've seen light gray, but does that factor into any decisions here on what might soften it? White seems brighter, I guess.
Is that better, or,
I don't know, I think
it's all
if we're
perception.
trying to soften it, I'd go with a more neutral tone than white, but that's just me.
Yeah, like a tan or gray
Yeah.
or something.
Yeah, I'm not, obviously that's a big discussion here, so if people have more questions on it, they should keep firing away.
Yeah, that becomes opinion at that point, right? A green fence would look nice in the summer with landscaping in front of it, but in the winter, it's gonna stick out like a sore thumb, right? So a white fence is gonna look great in the winter, but it's gonna look terrible in the summer.
What about light
Which-
tan and light gray, Paul?
Yeah.
You get both.
I think
Do every other slide.
what I've seen is
Yeah.
light gray seems to be the most unobtrusive color for all seasons.
Yeah.
And I've seen that in a lot of applications, and it's been chosen for that very reason. It's kind of the least,
Yeah.
draws the least attention.
Yeah, and I know that some people mentioned maybe wood. To me, it's a fence is a fence right on the boulevard in an industrial park, so I really don't think the materials, and I'm not, obviously if you made some decorative concrete one, that'd look really pretty, but that's not reasonable.
Wood requires a lot more maintenance,
Yeah.
and that can look bad quickly.
I don't know, it's an industrial area, but there's a nice boulevard of trees and natural trees. You got the trailer court there it's all trees.
Gonna
You
say
know,
what
so
that
you-
looks
and
like when you
then-
drive by in
and then
the
you,
spring when there's no vegetation either.
Yeah, but then there's the vista of the lake off in the distance, and then we're gonna have 100+ feet of just fence.
Is that what it
Right
is,
against
is
the
about 100
sidewalk.
feet?
I did not measure it, but unless Joe
23
knows.
stalls. It's a little north of that.
Call it 200.
Yeah.
23 stalls
Yeah,
at
there you go,
10 foot
200.
a stall.
Squaring it off and putting, as Joe mentioned, putting some landscaping there would help.
It would break it up as you're coming down, because I think your concern is as you're coming east down the road, you see the fence, but if we try to soften that corner up, I think that would certainly help.
Yeah, it'd take about 50 feet of fence off too.
Yeah.
If your scaling is correct, it's 350 feet of fence if you go to that corner.
So I will note for the commission as well that this fence line, although it may appear that it is on the property line, it is a setback roughly 19 feet from the property line. And then from the property line to the curb of the street, that is an additional 15 feet. So just for a matter of perspective on that proposed location, roughly 7.5 feet currently from this sewer line that is running through the property.
So you're saying that the fence is
Roughly 33 to 35 feet from the
property line.
curb of the street.
From the curb.
From the curb.
And we do have a fair amount of landscaping along that edge
Yep.
between the street.
Do we have a landscape plan?
Yes, yep,
You
it's in the
pull it
packet.
up. You
Oh,
have it.
yep, I do have it. Actually, I got it pulled up here.
Looks like a mixture of evergreens, overstories, and ornamentals.
Excuse me.
Not the easiest to see, but
These-
there's like 2 ornamentals, 5 evergreens, 2 overstories, 3 ornamentals, overstory, 3 ornamentals, overstory. And, you know, those could be intermixed. We could take some trees from, there's a ton of trees on that slope going down to the pond. I mean, if you guys would rather see more trees over here, we can reallocate whatever, you know, if you guys think that would look better.
I was gonna say, contrary to, you know, Paul, you're saying driving down 121st, the view of the lake. I'm more concerned looking across the lake and seeing what we can see. So I'd rather have that landscaping on the west side, or the east side with the lake.
And there's plenty of trees
Yeah.
to the south here too that, you know, we
That-
reallocate some of those trees that you see on the south side of the park and your southwest.
You have
side.
another slide that shows that better, the landscaping,
You can
Oh,
zoom
the
out.
second page.
right?
Actually, I'm not sure if this.
It's still that same page, it was just zoomed out. or
Oh.
zoomed in. There you go.
Doesn't come up very well on Adobe, but.
So Joe, you were referring to
Well,
down here?
for example, we've got, I don't know, 20 trees here. Well, what are we screening? There's another industrial property here.
There's a
This is all
pond.
wooded, pond. You know, a lot of these trees could be reallocated throughout the site if we thought that they're better fit over there.
I mean, this is just me, but I'm not a landscape designer, but I think the ornamental trees in front of the slat fence in the front would be good, because sometimes the overstory, I mean, it's just gonna block things, be compact, and not create a corridor as much, because it's more open above it. But again, I'm not a landscape designer, so.
And maybe we think about more evergreen trees, you know, that kind of year-round breakup versus an ornamental or an overstory deciduous tree. They lose their
Yeah.
leaves and then you kind of lose that effect. So we could sprinkle in some more evergreens along that front.
Yeah, even like some of the dwarf evergreens seem like a good idea.
Yeah.
Limit their height so meaning that they get 20, 25 feet only, that's it.
Right.
One thing to, and Joe, you're gonna have to correct me, but I believe there's sanitary sewer that covers the western half along the front of the fence.
There is.
So that would have some limitation, you know, really on,
I mean, some cities say no, other cities are, well, it's 10 feet down, it doesn't really affect it. And I think historically, Dayton hasn't been too worried about it. Go over to Lake Elmo, you can't have a tree within 15 feet of the sewer, even though it's 20 feet in the ground. So I don't get too worried about it, but every city's different. Because the roots aren't on a tree or anything, but on 10 feet to a sewer.
I think it's more the concern, the risk to the property owner I'd be concerned about is if they had to do something.
Right.
The property owners doesn't get compensated when their trees get taken if they're in the easement, but. Do we have a policy?
No,
Okay.
On trees within an easement?
Within a DNU, yeah.
Yeah, the only language that is in there is in the landscaping section, and it refers to the allowance of landscaping and fences to be located within the drainage and utility easements on properties. And just as John had mentioned in the event that, and you had mentioned in the event that work needs to be done within that easement area, the landscaping or the fence will be removed at the owner's expense.
I think in this case, if we approved something because of the landscape plan being tied to the conditional use permit, we would also require the replacement of such fence and/or landscaping to meet the standards and requirements of the conditional use permit.
That would be correct.
And we'd be fine with that.
Yeah.
I mean, these
Sure. We
sewer
would
pipes,
anticipate
they're
They're
pipes,
hopefully
so
foolproof, right?
not too concerned.
Any other questions for the applicant?
No. I'm not gonna promise that we don't have some more when we start talking.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online for the public hearing?
Again, if you'd like to speak during this public hearing, feel free to use the raise your hand function. Feel free to proceed, Mr. Chair.
All right, with that, at 7:26, we will close the public hearing, and I'll open it up for discussion amongst the commission.
Seems we should try to tackle the two things, the fence and the outdoor storage requirements, a little separately so we don't hop over. But I guess I would propose, if you guys are okay, adding to the CUP that the outdoor storage on the west part of the building, front of the building, is limited to vehicles, and then materials and vehicles are allowed in the rear / south of the building. And as well as a height requirement that anything in the rear / south of the building, the materials are limited to a height of 12 feet. I don't think we need to address height in the front of the building because we're gonna probably limit it to vehicles to begin with.
So just to make it easy on staff, make it easy on the applicant, on sheet C2, there's a list of storage summary. Would it be fair to say the utility trucks and machines listed
Yeah,
generally compromises the front?
utility trucks, machines, and employee vehicles that are left there. 'Cause
Yeah.
they could be there for a week or, if they're out of.
Overflow parking, I mean,
Yeah.
you can, that generally encompasses the
Thank you for that,
list.
Peter.
And then the materials, this is a representative, but not limited to, but a representative of the type of materials that could be stored behind the building.
Yeah, and I guess I don't know if I want to get as specific in the CUP and materials because I would just say materials used in the operations of the occupant's business. Because I'm more concerned that you keep the height. Well, I suppose we could I don't think we need to call out no hazardous materials are allowed because they have to have a separate permit for that. Is that correct?
The hazard,
that gets in the fire code.
Yeah, we don't need to call that out, do we? No, yeah.
So in the front yard, it would be vehicles, and we call it the front yard. In the backyard, it's going to be vehicles
And
and
materials.
materials.
And the materials
And equipment,
and equipment, and the materials are limited to a height of 12 feet.
yep.
It is not a bucket truck that's 12 feet tall, a vehicle? Or what do we call, is it something that we need to spell out differently, or are you
That would
talking
be
about
listed.
cars,
That'd be a
right?
vehicle
Or a pickup
versus-
for a car?
I think what Darren is trying to delineate here is the separation between there will be a height restriction for the materials placed on the property. However, the vehicles that are stored in the rear essentially are what they are and essential to the business, and are not subject to a height standard, is what he's essentially saying.
Right, but he also defined vehicles in the front of the building too. So how high is the vehicle for the front of the building? Is a 20-foot bucket truck sitting in the front of the building, which we clearly don't want, does that still fall within the guidelines that we're spelling out?
That would go in the back.
Well, I
We
think.
want that in the back.
We
And
would
it
want
sound-
that in the back.
It
We
sounds
have-
like that we can do that. So maybe we put a vehicle height on the front.
8 feet.
I think it might be more simplistic with the conditional use permit to address it being taller than the fence or not in the front of the building.
Yeah.
Where if you just say the commercial vehicles that are going to be utilized,
That's gonna be tough because, I mean, we're talking, I think Jeff said it, 8 foot 6 inches, and we have an 8-foot fence.
That's a cube truck,
Yeah.
is 8 feet.
Yeah.
I
mean,
Maybe is there certain
I-
tonnage of vehicle or like other way that we can measure that? Because
I think
thinking
a height's a good
future-proofing a
parameter. The
CUP.
question is 12 feet acceptable? I mean, the height of the fence isn't
Right.
kind of variable, but is 12 feet acceptable? Is 12 feet adequate?
For materials or vehicles?
Vehicles in the front.
Well, I think what's the max going down the road?
14.9 is
Perfect.
typically bridge clearance.
That's okay.
And-
But you don't have anything that high.
So 13.6 would be kind of our tallest.
It's a semi.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do we want semi-trailers parked in the front of the building behind the
So
fence?
I think if I understand, and I'm gonna step up to the screen, and maybe the applicant can correct me. The striped parking stalls adjacent to 121st, that's your 350s, maybe some 550s, but mostly 350s.
Yeah.
This is,
I just want to.
or maybe you can
Yeah, I
help
just want-
just describe this a little bit.
A lot of our people travel, so a lot of those folks would park here. And then when they come back with a 350, 450, or 550 on a Thursday night, they've been gone for 10 days. The work vehicle would be parked here, and then they would take their personal vehicle home. A lot of our traveling employees that are foremen will drive straight home with our vehicle. So but like, we like to keep our people who travel inside the fence safe for them, right? And if they get a flat tire, we fix it for them, and that kind of stuff like that. So a lot of those smaller vehicles will be parked there.
And then this area here, this area here for storage in the front, what do you envision there?
I'm speculating now.
Yeah, and
I don't see us storing a lot of stuff here, to be truthful. This is more to just drive through.
Maneuver areas, I was gonna say, 'cause it's kind of a tight corner.
We might load stuff here, but I don't see us storing stuff here.
and I'm trying to help you and help
Yeah.
them.
So all your bucket trucks and line trucks and all
They're gonna be-
they'll all be back in there anyway.
Yeah,
Yeah.
our cats with cleats will be parked back here and things like that. We do have some idle stuff that doesn't belong much, that's parked back here.
So, I guess maybe if the applicant would be open to it, what I would propose is the only condition we put is along 121st, those stalls be, call it a 550 or smaller. Everything else, so this row here and all of this, if they need to stage a truck overnight, they can stage a lowboy loaded up, ready to go the next morning. They can use that, but it's back off 121st, it's not providing that height. That's what I would propose for vehicle heights.
And then we do have some vans that they travel in,
It's fine.
honestly don't know.
I mean, a 550 is pretty big, so.
Yeah, a 550 is big, and then our vans are. What's a
550 look like? It's like I agree with that proposal from the chair as far as what should be stored up front. I think that's reasonable. I think that's probably what the applicant's going to use anyway. That kind of language in the resolution, again, would also be our ability to go back if there is ever a complaint that, hey, there's 4 semi-trucks being stored up front and they haven't moved for 3 months, right? Not that that's ever going to happen, but that gives us the ability to say, you guys got to move. So I like that amendment to the.
I support what Peter says. Is that clear to staff? And
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to word it. I mean, the idea is you're not gonna allow a semi-truck to park there, but you're gonna allow,
can you word it like Peter said, 550 trucks, or is that gonna be, 30
I'd
years
get
from
away
now,
from-
is that gonna be?
Yeah, I'd get away from specific,
we can put a,
Commercial
probably a
vehicle.
gross vehicle weight, I don't know if that's 12,000 pounds or for a F-550 or. You're gonna have like I'm gonna call it a high roof van. It's gonna be more
I
than 8
mean,
feet.
I would,
cube van.
so if I look at the bill of storage, or the storage summary, you've got pickup trucks. And I think if we limit it to pickup trucks or smaller vehicles, that encompasses the 550s, they're considered a pickup. And then, but it allows them the flexibility to use that elongated space next to the, as we go further back into the site for some of the other stuff that's on the bill of materials. I don't know.
Called it 1-ton truck or similar.
And the delineation that you had mentioned was this front parking lot line.
I think he's even referring to the front stall.
The front
I'm trying to be as flexible as we can with just the front stalls.
Just the
If
front
there's-
stalls adjacent to the
Yeah,
road.
and the CUP still don't limit this area to vehicle parking.
Yeah.
And we're just now getting more specific about what can
Where-
be in the front row.
Where the height
along
is.
where
I
the
mean,
height
that's
is most
the
visible.
biggest concern, right? If they're parking a box truck against the, what's the south fence line up in the parking lot, you're not gonna necessarily see it when you're driving down 121st, and that's what we care about. So I'm trying to also be somewhat practical.
Will there be anything, I mean, I'm thinking that's, a pickup truck still is gonna be, less than 8 feet in height. So I don't know if you'd ever have like a high top van or anything that's taller than 8 feet.
I was gonna mention, I don't know if we would ever have a Sprinter van. Sometimes the
Yeah.
techs do that. We've kind of downsized off them today. I'm not saying 30 years from now, we might not have one there. The times are changing with that. We typically don't. On a 550, you usually have a headache rack, so it might be about maybe this tall. Right?
Yeah.
And then a strobe light on top of that. So I don't think it's 8 feet tall.
I think if we're talking about what would otherwise be a passenger vehicle, right? So the pickup trucks or even the sprint vans, if we do limit the height, I don't think that's going to be an issue. All the other larger vehicles or taller vehicles are going to be stored in the back anyway.
So
So we could go 10 feet and be okay with anything else.
Yeah.
Everything along the fence, 10 feet.
Yeah.
Google says the Sprinter van's 9 feet with the high top,
Yeah.
so,
And we used to have them, we don't have them now.
yeah.
I think that's easier for staff, and clarity is vehicle storage in the front row has to be limited to 10 feet or less in height. You guys in concurrent?
The general concept, yeah.
Yeah, we got other things to talk about, I know.
I guess that I would say that the 10 feet is practical, but even just limiting it to passenger vehicles might be just that flat line where there's Sprinter vans there. But certainly if there are passenger vehicles 10 feet or smaller, whatever it may be,
I would suggest to do the height requirement, just because then if Dayton doesn't have a definition of what a passenger vehicle is or a commercial vehicle, you could get into some issues with, well, that is a passenger vehicle. No, it isn't. Well, prove it's not.
we
right?
almost had those definitions.
Yes.
in a
And
previous
cities
ordinance.
struggle with that because of what you consider a passenger vehicle or not. So
I think-
I would limit it to the height, or keep it at the height requirement.
taking notes here and. Okay, so
Rear?
that is one.
For rear storage?
I think the rear storage was
12 feet.
12 feet for
12 feet.
materials, and then
Vehicles and
undefined for
materials.
vehicles.
And equipment?
Yep, vehicles and equipment undefined.
Anything else specific to the height of storage?
Okay, I've got a couple more notes on what we've previously discussed that I just want to circle back to. There was a note about proposed storage items are limited to these listed on the site plan. Is that a condition of approval that you are willing to? It's one of those things where even with the allowance or the height requirements of these specific materials within the outdoor storage area, this wasn't information that I didn't think about when I was putting this together, but also looking at it from a practical enforcement standpoint, with John and myself being the ones that are kind of monitoring these properties as we can. I mean, a lot of it comes down to practicality of enforcing the conditional use permit. So these things weren't lost on me that we've discussed tonight. I wasn't sure how to provide, between John and myself, a well-rounded understanding with some of these items that we've discussed today. So that I appreciate the feedback and the conversation that's been had.
If I can, what Darren was saying before, I think a better condition might be materials that are normally associated with the goings-on of the business.
Primary
That was
Primary
on my
business.
list.
So,
Businesses,
Yep.
plural.
in other words, if they start storing an RV back there or their family boat, well, that's not the intent of our outdoor storage conditional use permit, right? So that way it gives them flexibility where if it's, an item not specifically listed on the site plan, then they're okay as long as it's used for the business.
And maybe the way I was thinking about it, at least, is you write it as materials such as these types of materials, and you list what they have, and then, if they've got, 7-foot reels of duck bank, and they also have 7-foot reels of copper wire. I mean, that's reasonable to assume they're
Wheels or-
they're pretty close. But if they start bringing in hay bales, well, I guess in the construction that is a thing. But if they start bringing in, like a boat or an RV, it's not construction materials such as.
I
And
feel
there-
comfortable with the height, that I'm not super concerned.
Sure.
That's why, when I focus on the height, that's what we're concerned about too, is that, it runs with the property forever, so.
And
That's where I would say associate with the business, because it could, they're designing the building to be 4 tenants based on the front of it. So,
And see, that's where I have the problem with, like, we're agreeing to this CUP, I get it runs with the building,
Yeah.
but we're agreeing to this CUP for this use at this time. And so that's where I don't agree with just leaving it blanket. If the building changes hands, an additional tenant comes in and they wanna store something else out there that's associated with that use of the business, we may not be in
If
agreement
it's
to it.
less than 12 feet in height, can you think of it? I can probably think of some examples that we might not be okay, but usually they fall under like hazardous materials and other stuff too.
Yeah.
like pile of tires.
Like a pile of tires would be a great example.
That was exactly 12 feet.
I don't know.
In the end of the day, in some of the older, or the urban areas, that's why outdoor storage has such a bad rap, is, 60 years later, it's not the primary use that is the issue, it's what's happened 60 years later.
Yeah.
And they have no enforcement issues because the CUP was a very blanket. So I do understand where you're coming from, Peter. By adding what you're saying, though, I think you're trying to add it in a way that's so flexible that it probably won't matter anyway.
It probably won't matter for, yeah.
So I think it's easier to keep it simple at 12 feet,
I'm fine with that.
but in the primary business and.
That was on my list as well, and I will just note for the commission's understanding, while the conditional use permit does run for the land, if the operation of the conditional use permit ceases to exist or ceases operation for a year or longer, the conditional use permit is automatically revoked regardless of whether this is recorded against the property or not. However, I will just note that it is at that time that it is staff's responsibility to proceed with that revocation of the conditional use permit that I have not ever been involved with, but just know that there is a process related to this not being there forever if the applicants were to otherwise leave the site.
So how much difference does there have to be in the future owner and use of the property to trigger that?
It's, so if they found a new location, say hypothetically, if they found a new location 20 years from now and decided to leave this site and go to another site and put this up for sale, and it stayed vacant for a year, that would be the cease of operations of the outdoor storage area for a year, and the conditional use permit would go away. Now, if that property was sold in 6 months and they were gonna continue use of it, they could do so. But I just wanted to.
With a completely different operation.
Yes, as long as they still meet the conditions of approval in that conditional use permit, and if that is not the case, they would be required to come back and seek an amendment to that original conditional use permit.
You could have a case where there's a user of the building that doesn't need any outdoor storage and never uses outdoor storage for more than a year, and then that conditional use permit also
Same scenario,
goes
yep.
away, right? So it's not just a vacant property that triggers that, so.
Nope.
Okay.
I guess Peter, to get everyone more comfortable, imagine if this property sold and became a landscaping company, right? They would probably have their trucks and stuff parked in the front, just like we're allowing, and they'd be doing all their material staging and stuff in the rear. And so if anything, maybe you add something to the CUP2 about dust and noise and stuff like that. But, I mean, we kind of already have ordinances for that, right? Or no?
Construction, I mean, if they were to operate 24 hours a day, they could.
So, and I guess I'm not overly concerned even if it became a landscape company. I'm just trying to think what other kind of uses would come here and use a site like this.
Auto repair.
Outdoor storage.
Joe's Auto Salvage.
Some sort of auto sal, that's probably what I'm most concerned about, would be some sort of auto salvage.
Yeah, I mean, we have examples of that on.
Operating vehicles is part of the requirement for the storage then?
That's a standard nuisance code requirement that all vehicles on site are licensed and operable, so they gotta have up-to-date tabs and.
Right, so that salvage yard one.
Unless you're Dro's salvage operation.
Unless you are a salvage yard, those are specific circumstances that,
Is that a specific conditional use permit?
no.
It's not.
Do you mean the allowance for those
Yes,
types of?
for a salvage operation or a junkyard or a, whatever you might want to call it.
I would have to look into that. My assumption would be yes, but again, I don't know off the top of my head 100%.
Yeah, I mean, we had that on the 113th. I can't remember
The auto
exactly
dismantling.
what permit they received.
I do just want to make one more note on here. There was one more on my list regarding the revised landscape plan to enhance that front fence line more.
Perhaps we should talk about that front
Yeah, we
fence
haven't
line
talked
first.
about it. Sure. I think a couple people want to talk about it. Are we good on outdoor storage staff before we move on? You got understand the conditions that we talked about?
Yes.
Okay.
You know my feelings.
I'm less concerned about the fence than you guys, I guess, or than Paul. I just feel like it's an industrial neighborhood and there's, I'm assuming, hoping Arlo Steel builds their property next door. I mean, it's gonna be big steel beams coming in and out of there. It's just, I understand the purpose of this road, but it is not gonna be a heavily traveled corridor.
I echo Darren's comments. I would say, to me, the front of the building, and we've already seen it this a couple times, this site, the front of the building is more French Lake Road than it is 121st from what I would consider the front, as far as where I put my emphasis on. So the parking lot on 121st, no big deal. Being fenced in.
So you have fencing on the front of the building then in your district too.
And outdoor storage there.
Yeah.
Where
It's a tough site.
And in my realization tonight, and one of the things that maybe we need to address in a future, I mean, this applicant brought forward as Hayden said, a plan that meets our code, as far as outdoor storage in the front. Maybe that's something we need to address in the future, but it's allowed in today's world, the way it's written. So I have no problem with it.
I would still challenge that this is a parking lot, not storage. If this is just a standard parking lot, would they be allowed to fence it?
Yes, but it would have to maintain that transparency. But fences are allowed in the front yard on commercial and industrial properties.
Okay.
But it's that transparent versus opaqueness that kind of has that contradictory language. Now, again, I will note that the applicants have talked about recessing this fence line from this corner to potentially to the edge of the parking lot and the turnaround here. If that is something that you are interested in including as a condition of approval, just to ensure that it is complete through the fence permit process, that could certainly be considered as well.
Yeah, it's a improvement for sure, especially if you get some landscape in that corner. I mean, I do think a black chain link vinyl coated fence with no slats in it would be less obtrusive. In the front, I understand there's security concerns, but that would be my recommendation. Don't know
Yeah, I mean,
fellow commissioners agree with that, but
I think, I won't go with the pun that I'm on the fence on this one. But I understand both sides, right? So I don't know how effective a opaque fence is in actuality from preventing theft or security issues, especially if it's a chain link fence. It's a quick hop and you're over anyway. I'm more concerned with the visual appeal of what it's going to look like, the precedents that could be set for allowing an opaque fence in the front yard in an industrial district. But understanding that fence is 30 feet from the curb or more, it gives me a little bit more ability to understand that this might not be terrible. As far as being able to see that front of the building, I don't necessarily agree that you're going to be able to see that building until you're right on top of it, right? So especially traveling east there, even traveling west, you're not going to see the front of that building really until you're past it anyway because of how it's oriented on the property itself. So those are considerations we would have to make as far as why is the ordinance in place that you want to see unslatted or transparent fencing around parking lots in the front of industrial properties. I think it is for that visual sightline reasons, right? To be able to see through for those aesthetic purposes. And that's not going to be achieved here. You are going to get a fence that is heavily landscaped potentially. That might be the difference in what that compromise could be. So I understand the security nature. I understand that, a fence is a good way of keeping things secured. So is security cameras. So are other reasons or abilities to be able to make a site secure. I don't know. I'm kind of on Paul's side here too, as far as what it actually will look like when it's all said and done. So I'd be happy to hear other commissioners.
I wonder if police would actually prefer a opaque or a transparent fence there, because when they drive by at night, they could see if there's activity going on in there with the opaque fence. It's They could be stealing every catalytic converter they want in there, and no one's going to catch it unless there's security cameras, which I assume you'll have anyway. But yeah, I mean, 1 inch by 1 inch fences are supposed to be anti-climb, you know, for security purposes. I mean, there's options out there.
I'll just note that though I didn't bring this specific question up to the police department about the front fence line, these plans are sent to all the departments for review, and I received no comments related to this proposal from the police department, so.
I don't have issue with a fence that people can't see through, and I understand exactly why you'd want that. I mean, the fence is there, whether you can see through it or can't see through it, is not gonna make any difference to somebody that wants to try to climb the fence or cut through the fence. But for somebody going through and casing the neighborhood, trying to look out there at any given time and see what's out there, if you could just drive by on the road and case the whole parking lot and see what's in there, then you're gonna pick and choose when you're gonna go in there, and you're gonna wait until that specific vehicle is there or that equipment that you wanna steal, and you're gonna go in there and do that. If you can't see what's in there, that's an advantage to the owner of the property. I don't have a problem at all with the fence being opaque at all. I mean, I think the applicant made a good point that, you know, the tan or light gray is kind of an unobtrusive color. I mean, it kind of blends in with whatever's around it, and I think that would be perfect, whichever they choose. I don't have a preference on that. But I think it makes sense for us to to let the applicant shield, if that's a better or right term, his property from people that are driving by and just casing the whole thing.
And I think to that point, I mean, we talked about a little bit of the condition of the conditional use permit and the type of use. We heard from the applicant that employees are going to be parking here for a couple days at a time, overnight. It's a little bit different than a normal parking lot where you have vehicles coming and going during shifts or operational hours. I mean, they're here for, I don't know, I know people who work at construction who are gone for weeks at a time. And so to give them, to exactly your point, Keith, to give some sense of security of they don't know what vehicle is going to be there at any given time when they're driving by.
The other thought that I had too, you know, we're talking about the fence and what kind of slatting you're gonna put in the fence. I think consideration should be giving that more planting should be outside of the fence, whether that means moving the fence away from the road to, you know, to accommodate that. But if the plantings are on the outside of the fence, that helps with people not being able to see in there too. I mean, you're gonna have the fence that people can't see through, and you have the plantings, trees, shrubs, whatever. If they're on the outside of the fence, then if the fence is, you know, offensive to some folks, they're not gonna be able to see as much of the fence either, with the trees and the brush shrubs and stuff, plantings on the outside of the fence. I think you might take that into consideration too. And some of the plantings that showed on our packet here, dealing with the back side of the property, so to speak, where there's nothing developed back there yet, someone else owns it, I guess. I don't see a lot of sense putting a lot of plantings back there. I would suggest that some of those plantings go up around 121st and along French Lake Road. I mean, that gives a better view from across the lake, so if you have the fence that people can't see through, but if the trees grow up and the shrubs grow up and you can't really see the fence at all, that's not gonna be offensive to them either. You'll be looking across the lake, you'll see greenery, and you won't see a fence. Now, that take a few years for that to happen, but at least that thought would be into it, you know, worked into that, and you'd be able to you know, change or soften the look of that solid fence, and you'd still have the privacy where people couldn't see in the meantime until the trees grew up, so that they couldn't see the fence. I think that would make some sense. I don't know what sense it makes to have a ton of shrubbery or green on the back side when there's woods back there anyway. If you have an area back there that you don't mow, in 3 years you're going to have box elder trees and Chinese elm trees, and it'll be full of greenery anyway, without you spending all that money to plant stuff back there. Nobody's gonna get shielded from it anyway. Nobody's back there.
So I guess my question would be, would the planning commission be interested in attaching a condition of approval related to that enhancement of the landscape plan on the front fence line? Not necessarily adding planting requirements or anything like that, but maybe just a relocation of some of the plants that are proposed on the plan.
Yeah, I mean, I would say for sure to have that as a condition to enhance the landscaping along that, the street there, and to get rid of the triangle, right?
To recess this to be.
Yes.
The triangle, yeah. And I would just stress to be size appropriate with landscaping, because what'd you say, it was 37 feet between the curb and the fence?
Yes, and roughly
I mean, we
7.5
can't
feet
be
from the
putting
fence to the storm.
Evergreens that, have 30-foot spreads.
Certainly.
Mr. Chair, we're missing a landscape architect on the commission, so I guess my suggestion would be is to, have the applicant's landscape architect kind of see what they can do. I think it's clear of taking some of the vegetation that's on the backside and moving it on the front. But I think their landscape architect would be, do a better job than us in figuring out
Yeah.
what to place where.
What's appropriate there, yeah.
Yeah. I think that's fine.
So I was just going to summarize the extent of the conditions that we're going to add here in terms of moving towards a motion for a
Please do.
recommendation.
Thank
All items, essentially the storage area here, the front parking lot area is limited to those vehicles that are 10 feet or less, 10 feet or smaller in size. All items stored on the property must be associated with the business. That was another one that was included there. Storage of materials in the rear yard is limited to 12 feet in height. That's materials. And the fence be recessed in the northeast or northwest corner of the property, essentially aligning what the parking lot is shown as, and we can certainly work with the applicant to show that change. And then relocation of certain landscaping from the rear, or as applicable from wherever location that's not going to obviously be the language in the resolution, but as best determined by their landscape architect, and staff will certainly work with them on that as well.
With the CUP, I think you didn't mention, but I would limit the storage in the front of the building to vehicles only. So if the use ever changes, we don't have a bunch of other stuff out there too.
Sure. Okay.
It's a nice landscape space. Nice building.
I will make a motion to approve the site plan, CUP for outdoor storage.
Nice vista.
I think is there one more thing we need?
And the preliminary plat for
Oh.
Dayton Field 5th edition.
And the preliminary plat for Dayton Field's 5th edition, subject to the conditions that staff had the report, as well as the conditions that we added.
And for clarification purposes, that includes the opaque fence in the front yard, correct?
Yes, it wouldn't be addressed in the conditions of approval, but it would be just a part of the site plan as
Correct.
proposed.
Okay.
We have a motion,
I'll second the motion.
and we have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed?
Aye. Nay. Whatever you say.
Motion passes
You can't do it.
4-1.
I would like to clarify too, for the record, that it is, my nay vote is for the opaque fence. That I don't believe that's a precedent that we should set, even in an industrial area.
That will be clarified in the minutes.
Thank you.
All right. And this goes to council.
September 23rd.
Thank you, guys.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
Thank you, appreciate your time.
Thank you.
All right, notices and announcements.
Okay. This is kind of the fun part of how fast can I get through this. So first, we'll have an open house for States Manufacturing on Thursday, September 13th at 3 p.m. Planning commissioners are invited. It'd be very appreciated if you're able to attend. This is located at the Cubes building. So the photo here is an example of one of the products that they manufacture.
Can you clarify the date?
3 p.m.
I'm sorry? Oh, yeah.
I don't believe the 13th is a Thursday.
No.
13th is a Saturday, so
Oh, well,
Thursday the 11th.
that must be.
Trying to get
I will,
overtime, are you, huh?
I'll clarify that before we finish updates.
Okay.
So,
Thank you.
you can't think and talk at the same time. Related to the States is occupying half of the Cubes, 500,000 square feet. The other half has been vacant for some couple of years. That does have a new tenant, so it is Datex, which is a subsidiary of Mass HVAC. They are a manufacturer of HVAC systems. They have a partial shared ownership with States. And what I mean by that is there's a separate company that owns portions of both States and Mass HVAC. So it's all related manufacturing. So
Is that the remainder of the building? Or just
yes, so Cubes is, or will be full, it is leased up. So that's,
Pretty nice distribution center we got there.
yes, yes, for those that were.
I'm happy for the manufacturing use.
Yes, for those
Very
that were on the commission and when the Cubes was approved and the discussion of how many delivery vans could be leaving the site, I want to say it was like 3 a minute or so, something like that. So this is better. This is much better use for that location.
They have plenty of doors.
They have many doors, yes. Quick Trip will be opening on Thursday, October 2nd. I do remember that's a Thursday, not a Saturday. The site is changing every day, so they have a litany of trees and shrubs that are sitting out there waiting to be planted now. The monument sign is up. The tall pylon sign has not been, I haven't noticed that it's been delivered yet.
Are they doing a grand opening? Any kind of celebration? for them?
Not that I've been told.
Okay.
I would imagine that they will.
I believe they built it in the wrong location.
The sign?
No, the building.
Oh. You-
What, you mean in Dayton?
Yeah. It should be in Balsam.
Oh.
You just live in the wrong part of town.
I believe that there might have been something mentioned about a open house or a grand opening for that. But we can clarify that and send out an invite to the planning commission
Sounds
once
good.
we have that.
Okay. What do we got next?
That question on the Quick Trip, the intersection there. Did we do anything with the intersection onto Dayton Parkway out of there? I know they were talking about stoplights.
Yes, so that is still the plan. We have, I believe we've put that out for bids. It's going to be a few months before that's installed. So I think the idea is, right now there's stop signs on Hawley, not on Dayton Parkway. There's an alternate to the bid to install temporary traffic lights until the permanent ones are available. But I know, I've been told that the permanent lights are, whenever they're approved, there's a 4-month backlog to get the actual signals.
Approved by who?
Council, city council.
So the plan is that at some point this truck stop will open up with nothing but a stop sign on
Correct.
the side streets?
Yes.
Oh, Lord. How'd we end up in that hole?
Timing. Yeah, so similarly, the Quick Trip on 81 has a stop sign. Granted, that's gonna be less traffic, but similar condition. L.C. Stevens Park Master Plan, so this is an update to the master plan. We have 2 concept plans under review, the kind of the left and right. There is a special committee that has Paul Crossland that represents the Planning Commission. I believe we should be having a meeting sometime in the month of September to go over these concept plans and any changes before it goes back to, or before it's presented at the City Council. Adopt a park. So the names of parks that are available for adoption has not changed in the last couple of months. So I would encourage anyone that may be watching this and has one of these parks in their neighborhood to consider adopting it. The commitment is that you're essentially cleaning or picking up litter on a monthly basis at the park. So the Adopt a Park is a little similar to Adopt a Highway, but the frequency is more. Next. Back to school movie night. Who doesn't want to watch The Wild Robot? So this will be Friday, September 5th at L.C. Stevens Park. Cards and cribbage and coffee. So this is at the Activity Center in the Old Village on the 2nd and 4th Thursday of the month. Then the Giving Garden. So I've been impressed that most days where I've looked outside, there is something sitting out there offered to people. So if you're gardening and you're harvesting and have more than what your family needs, please consider providing that to the Giving Garden for others to take. Dayton Car Show, there's 1 date left, so that is Friday, September 12th. I believe the last couple of shows, I've been told we've had hundreds of people that have attended this.
Perfect place for that show.
Mm-hmm. And then Saturday, September 20th, will be the Dayton Heritage Days, so they will have a band called Zero Below. That is, the Dayton Heritage Days will be 10 a.m. to 11 p.m. I believe it will still feature a parade. Next Planning Commission meeting is Thursday, October 2nd. And just clarify a couple things. The open house for States Manufacturing is Thursday, September 18th, not the 13th.
18th.
And then one more item before I forget is we were being asked to reschedule the December 4th meeting. We ran into this last year too, is that it conflicts with the Holiday Parade. So if you're able to,
Just cancel it.
well, we may have items
It was a
that need
No, for sure.
attention, but if you look at your calendars, if you're able to, on either the previous or the following Thursday.
The following Thursday's Thanksgiving.
Wednesday, the 3rd could also be an
that's
option.
December.
That's previous.
Yeah.
December 3rd was that meeting? They need
Right now, it's
December
December 4th.
December
but
4th. is what I'm
Wednesday,
saying.
December 3rd could be an option.
Because I prefer to just push it to the 11th 1 week later on, keep it on Thursdays, but.
Yep.
I'm available the 3rd or the 11th for that fact. It doesn't matter.
3rd works for me.
The 11th work for you?
If I'm pushed into it, yeah. I'd not prefer it, but
Okay. I think the 3rd would work for me too.
I won't know my hockey schedule for a few more weeks.
We can come back to this.
Don't
at
you
the
have to
following
juggle
meeting.
around that anyway?
Yeah.
Yeah, but
I hear you.
I won't know for a few more weeks which team she lands on. So I have no preference at this point.
Okay, do you want to set a date or wait?
We can revisit
I
it.
propose we just wait.
Sure.
Next meeting.
I will say I probably won't know at next meeting, so if you're waiting on me,
that doesn't make any sense.
if you're If you're waiting on me, it's not worth waiting.
I just don't know my schedule right now off the top of my head, so I'll have to
But if
review
there's,
and come back.
yeah.
I'm fine if once you hear Jeff's schedule, if you pick a date and let me know. That's where I'm at.
Okay.
Yeah, same here.
So, just for clarity, is we will not have a planning commission on Thursday, December 4th. We don't know what date it will be, but holiday
it-
will be here on the 4th.
Let me
regardless.
ask this, knowing that we have stuff coming up, does it make sense to, and Keith, I hear you and pushing it out as a potential concern, does it make sense to push it out 2 weeks, have a mid-December and maybe skip January? I don't know.
We won't know.
But it's something to consider,
Sure. Yep.
because the January one lands over,
The same, yeah, we'll probably push it back.
yeah.
It
the
would be January 1st, New Year's.
Right, because we're gonna change that one anyway.
So we're gonna
No
change
matter
that
what we do.
one.
I
Do we have a-
struggle canceling one considering some items take 2 hours
No,
each.
what I'm saying is, do we have a
We're out of here late
mid-December?
enough.
Do we have a mid-December and then hopefully not have a January one?
There'd also be 60-day rules and everything like that too, as far as when
That-
the planning commission approves something and when the next available city council meeting would be
Yeah,
to
and
take
it's-
that up.
January's long, because the first is Thursday, it's 5 weeks till the February 5th meeting too, so we have a long.
So it may be
Yeah.
worth just kind of looking at all that stuff as a whole.
I was just gonna look at the calendar to see if we had proactively scheduled the January Planning Commission meeting for the 7th. We probably haven't set
No.
that schedule yet.
No.
So, the expectation, I think, when it lands on a holiday is that is not technically the first working Thursday of the month. So we would
Have one on the 8th.
likely
Default
push
to the
that to
8th.
the 8th.
That would be the 8th. Well, I'm gonna stick with what I said, is once you hear Jeff's schedule, if you tell me the 3rd or 11th, that works for me.
Sure, yeah, me too.
Okay.
I'm sure either one will work. I just want to double check. So.
Okay.
So I wanna make a motion to
It's all
adjourn.
on Jeff's shoulders.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 All those opposed? Motion. Meeting is adjourned.